Hello, my name is Stephanie Stevens and I'm a planner with the City of Wheat Ridge Community Development Department. I'm presenting case numbers WZ-20-02 and WZ-20-03, which is a request for approval of a zone change from planned commercial development to planned industrial development, with approval of an outline development plan and specific development plan for development of an industrial warehouse at 4990 Parfett Street. The subject property is identified on this slide with a red outline and is addressed as 4990 Parfett Street. It's bounded by Parfett Street to the west, I-70 frontage road to the south, Oak Street to the east, and West 50th Avenue to the north. The site is approximately 10.6 acres in size and is currently vacant. It's surrounded by a mix of long-standing industrial and commercial uses. Property went through rezoning to planned commercial development in 2005 with intentions to expand the adjacent Medved auto dealership site that lies just west, but the plans never came to fruition and site remains undeveloped. Wheat Ridge Ward commuter rail station lies northwest of the site, approximately 3/4 of a mile away. As mentioned, the property is currently zoned Planned Commercial Development or PCD. Most of the surrounding zoning is industrial. Southeast, east, and northeast of the property is zoned planned industrial development. North is industrial employment. And then to the northwest is agricultural 1, which contains an existing single-family home. To the west is the Medved site and is zoned commercial 1. And to the southwest is zoned commercial 2. The request before you is for a rezone from planned commercial development to planned industrial development. Under the current zoning, the site can only be developed as an auto dealership, so rezoning is necessary. Because of the unique challenges of the site and proposal for a large format industrial building for which city standards do not contemplate, not all standards of the IE zone district can be met. For these reasons, PID zoning is most appropriate. The plan development process entails several steps before development can occur. With this application, we're looking at accomplishing all steps listed on the screen. Step 1, the Outline Development Plan, or ODP, establishes the zoning. Step 2, the Specific Development Plan, or SDP, provides site-specific design. Both Step 1 and Step 2 are of focus for the hearings. As for Step 3, Subdivision, an administrative consolidation plat is currently being processed by staff and is under review. First, it will be helpful to get oriented on the site. This is a view from the southwest corner of the site at I-70 frontage road and Parfett Street looking northeast. The billboard site is not a part of the subject property. Here's another view from the midway point of Oak Street looking southeast. More photos were provided in the staff report, but this image is reflective of the condition of the long-standing vacant land. We'll start with the Outline Development Plan, or ODP, which establishes the PID zoning. The ODP document is 2 sheets in this case. The first page is the cover page with certification and signatures blocks. There's also a character of development statement, list of permitted uses and development standards, and other standard notes. The development standards is what we'll want to focus on here, and I'll go over that in just a minute. The second page includes the conceptual layout of the property, including access drives and building orientation, as well as architectural standards. The conceptual layout, or sketch plan, is meant to illustrate general building locations and circulation. I'll go through each of the architectural standards with you here in a moment. As for the sketch plan, this is a required component, but we won't focus too much on this sketch plan because we're also reviewing the SDP, which has much greater detail. The uses permitted per the ODP are all uses permitted in the city's established industrial employment, commercial 1 and commercial 2 zoning, with emphasis placed on encouraging industrial and commercial uses that support employment. The table on the screen summarizes the development standards that are being proposed, which are generally aligned with IE standards, with exceptions to setbacks which are shown to be more restrictive. Note that the rear setback along Oak Street is actually proposed to be larger per landscaping requirements at 40 feet for loading. Keep in mind when comparing to the Medved PCD site that site was proposed solely for auto dealership use. The development standards on this slide reflect those that are being requested to differ from or be modified from typical IE standards. I'll go through each one with you briefly to give you some context, but you can find more details in the staff report. The The ODP categorizes parking by use with a request for ultimately less restrictive parking than the standard warehouse and sales uses would require by code, and based on comparable requirements for large format industrial uses in other jurisdictions around the Denver metro area. The applicant is proposing 2 access points per public street to align with fire district requirements, and curb cuts are proposed to be a little bit wider to accommodate truck turning movements along Oak Street. Landscape requirements are proposed to be somewhat flexible where utilities or easements exist on site, but requires typical minimum required number of plants to be relocated elsewhere on site and to focus our attention of areas of higher priority such as screening of parking areas and headlights. Enhanced buffering is required to the northwest adjacent to the residential as well as fencing, and on Oak Street on the loading side an enhanced buffer of 40 feet is required. The ODP also requires a tree inventory and assessment of existing trees on the property to determine viability, and those that cannot be saved on site must be replaced at a 2-to-1 ratio. The applicant is also proposing a maximum fence or wall height of 10 feet versus the 6 feet typically allowed to sufficiently screen loading areas from adjacent uses. Architecture, which is the meat of the modifications being proposed and stems from the Architectural and Site Design Manual. The modifications are being proposed related to building placement, parking placement, articulation, materials, variation, transparency, and screening, all which directly relate back to the proposed large-scale industrial building lying adjacent to 3 street frontages. Everything else meets code in terms of lighting, fencing, signage, and the like. The SDP is 13 pages and gets into the details of the project. The SDP has to comply with the ODP, and the cover sheet has a table that shows required and proposed development standards. The SDP is proposed to facilitate the construction of a single industrial warehouse building consisting of approximately 142,200 square feet. The resulting building is speculative in that tenants are not yet in place but would accommodate businesses of varying sizes and largely target employment-related uses of industrial nature as allowed by the ODP. The building is designed for the main facade to front on Parfett Street with loading on the east along Oak Street. Property will have 2 access points from Oak and 2 access points from Parfett Street. Standard parking wraps the building on the north, south, and west sides with a truck court and loading area on the east side. Site access, parking, building height, and setbacks comply with the ODP and are compatible with the surroundings. Sidewalks will be installed along Parfett, Oak, and 50th Avenue. The site's heavily encumbered by easements. As previously mentioned, there's a 100-foot public service company easement on the south side as well as the Ridge Road tributary. And then on the east is the Bayou Ditch, Arvada Channel, and storm pipes, all which are significant and limit development in these locations. This is the landscape plan for the site. The SDP proposes 26% of the site to be landscaped, including parking lot landscaping, perimeter landscaping, and a decent buffer on the south side. A total of 112 trees and 781 shrubs will be provided. A tree inventory and assessment was performed by an arborist to determine viability of existing trees on site, and all but one, and even that one was determined to not be super healthy, were deemed unviable. So with that, the applicant is proposing replacement of trees at a 2-to-1 ratio as required by the ODP. The image on the screen shows a perspective view of the southwest corner elevation looking north from Parfett Street. The proposed architectural construction reflects mainly articulated site concrete panels and glass accents and includes varying parapet heights, textures, colors, reveals, enhanced entries, windows, and features that help to break up the facade. The main entry includes an elevated glass line, enhanced architectural design on the south end of the building, which you can see here. All entries are recessed and include permanent canopies to help break up the monotony of the large-scale building. This is a perspective view of the east and south elevation from Oak Street. This is where you can see the loading area along Oak, which is proposed to be screened by 10-foot wing walls, which also help to break up the facade. As a requirement of the zone change process, a neighborhood meeting was held on April 21st, 2020 in a virtual meeting format with 14 people from the public in attendance. Notes from that meeting are included in the staff report. Since Wheat Ridge is not a full-service city, we sent the application on referral to outside agencies as well as completing our internal review. There are no remaining concerns or objections from outside agencies. Before the hearing, the property was posted for 15 days and letters were sent to property owners within a 600-foot radius. We have not received any calls or emails to date. We use several criteria to evaluate the zone change requests, which includes consistency with the comprehensive plan, which is our major guiding document for land use. A full analysis of the criteria for consideration of the zone change are provided in the staff report. This image on the screen shows an excerpt of the comprehensive plan's structure plan, which designates the area in dark purple as the employment area designation. The ODP reflects uses, development standards, and architectural requirements that will help with economic growth, bring in jobs, and guarantee quality design in line with the employment area designation. Staff finds that the zone change request meets the criteria. It allows for compatible land use, complies with the comprehensive plan, is consistent with the intent of plan development zoning, and is necessary to accommodate a large format industrial land use not contemplated in city standard codes. The SDP also meets criteria for review. The SDP complies with the purpose of a PID, is consistent with the ODP, there's adequate infrastructure to serve the property, and it provides for quality design that meets the intents of our code. Ultimately, staff is recommending approval of both requests. Planning Commission also recommended approval to City Council at the December 3rd hearing. It should be noted that a recommended condition by the Planning Commission was placed on the SDP regarding the height of fencing and walls, but the applicant has since revised the ODP and SDP to address said condition, so staff has not included the condition for City Council's consideration. More information can be found in the staff report. If City Council approves the ODP and SDP at the hearing, then the zone change and SDP are formally approved and development can commence. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.